Good evening, everyone, and we are back for Year 4 of the Indigenous Oration. Tonight you're in for a real treat, as you have been for the last 3 orations, and tonight's going to be full of AI, Aboriginal inspiration. And we're going to start off, yay, and we're going to start off, we're here on the homelands of the Wurundjeri people, and on a cold night in Naarm, we're in the shadow of the Birrarong, and it's a great pleasure to start that inspiration with Annette, who's a traditional owner. Oh, can I invite you to the stage? Thank you.
I too owe Deakin University. I got a postgraduate there when I was working for the government, and as usual, we fight with the government. So they asked me to leave, and halfway through it, I didn't have any money to finish it. And good old Deacon Wendy Berham, Mark, come to the rescue and got me a scholarship to finish my postgraduate. Now I run the only Aboriginal woman archaeological company in Australia and have for the last 20 years. So thank you, Deacon, for looking after us. Because I didn't have the money. Anyway, well, I'm here tonight to do the Welcome to Country, and where to? Where are we going now after the no vote, the landslide? I think Yuruk's a really good way to go, and I think treaty's another option. And what a lot of people don't realise about Yuruk was it's truth-telling. But those of you who are a little bit older, if you go back to the 70s, not only Aboriginal children were stolen, but also non-Indigenous children were stolen from women who were young, unwedded. Also, women, if you go back a little bit further, weren't allowed to work, weren't allowed to drink in pubs. So all the atrocities that happened to our people happened to women and minority groups within Australia. When we fought and come out and told the truth for the rights of Aboriginal people to keep their children, to work with equal rights and equal pay, we're also fighting for you fellas, because with our blood, sweat and tears, the rights that come along for us come along for you too. Mainly the women, because they're always the undertrodden like the Aboriginal people. And don't ask me why we wanted to go drink in pubs with the blokes, eh? But we did, and we won it. So yeah, when we talk Yurok and truth-telling, there's a lot of truth-telling out there that you fellas should be doing too. And the thing that breaks my heart, when I say this, I always get a non-Indigenous woman coming up to me and saying, thank you for recognising it. And I said, I do recognise it, but the day I'll be happy is when you stand up with us. Because if we unite as one for human rights, imagine what we've got. We'd be a very powerful force. The same with black deaths in custody. A couple of weeks ago, a woman was having problems, and instead of tasing her, the police shot her dead. So again, you know, the atrocities that happen to Aboriginal people happen to the lower class structure and the minority groups in Australia. You know, I remember back also in the 70s when they got the non-Indigenous boys in the back of the panel van, they also copped a good flogging. So it's not new that the underprivileged, the underdog in Australia doesn't get a go. So that's just a little thing we should be looking at. And treaty's another option. Treaty is good, and we in Australia seem to lead the way, and I think we will get the first treaty across with Djadjarong. So there are other options, and what I think treaty should be is a black parliament. Something that the Voice didn't have is a position actually sitting at the table, a vote at the table, because that's what we want. We want a real voice, we want to vote, we want to say. We don't want to just be an advisory group and the Liberal government gets in and we're all stuffed, eh? But that's eventually what could happen. So we really have to think about what we're doing. I was one of the women who got the Traditional Owners Settlement Act through. I don't know if anybody's heard of that, have you? The TOSA was an alternative to native title, because no one along the east coast could get a native title claim through because we all come. My grandmother was born on Aboriginal reserve, so all of us fellas are, off reserves, not allowed to speak the language, not allowed to practice the customs. Could you imagine me walking down Burke Street, with a spear, with just a, possum skin, except for shocking you all and myself? I'd get arrested for indecent exposure and all this. So I argued that, our tradition changes over time. Go back 200 years, We were naked, yous were dressed. Today, we're sun smart, sitting under the trees, and yous are all on the nudist camps getting melanomas. So culture changes over time to be able to survive, and our culture has adapted to be able to survive in the wide environment. And now we get to keep our children. And most thing I'm very proud of, is my children went straight from high school to university. But they didn't. I should have sent them to Deakin, you would have helped with the costs. But they're at La Trobe. And we were living in Geelong. We had to move to Melbourne. But yeah, I'm very proud of that. And that's an important part of bridging the gap, is not waiting until we're old and grey to go back to school and get a bit of papers so we can work and make the white man's money, but ensuring our children follow the flow of everything else. So they get their education at a young age. So when they're older, they've got more knowledge and more understanding, and especially in law. To get a law degree at 60, you haven't got those 40 years experience with the law to when you get to 60 or 40, to when most of my generation actually went to school. So helping what used to at Deakin is give the Aboriginal people the opportunity to be able to get an education is really, really important. So I'd like to thank you for that from the bottom of my heart, because it's important to us and it's a very important part about bridging the gap. Where to next? Helping our children get an education, helping our children advance, bridging the gap, giving them an opportunity to make real money and not live on Vegemite, because we love our Vegemite sandwiches, but a steak every now and again goes down well. In the beginning, we all believe in a creator. It doesn't matter if you believe in Bunjil, the eagle, or you believe in God, or you believe in Allah, or, you're Hindu. We all believe that we're created from the land. And even if you're an evolutionist, you believe we come from the land and we split in microorganisms to where we're in today. And I was given this talk back many years ago about native title. We were arguing with the sunset clause that was coming in. And this gentleman got up to me and he said, "Hey, I respect your dream time." He said, "But I believe in Adam and Eve." And he said, "I believe they're white." And I said, "Okay." And I thought about it. Adam and Eve were from the Middle East, so they would have at least had to have a nice colour, eh? 2, there's no apples in the Middle East. It would have had to be a pomegranate or a fig. But I think he got one thing right, because if Adam and Eve had been white, they would have said, "Stuff the apple and ate the snake," and none of us would be in the shit we are today. Deakin, welcome to Melbourne. My land's your land. Respect the land, respect each other, and you're part of my extended family. You're my brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Annette, thank you for that welcome to country, and it's a good way of drawing us into the important things in life, and as a true elder, you have taught us here tonight. But one of the things you did teach me was the importance of just one scholarship and what they can do, and I'm glad that your journey is taking you to work on country and with country. So, Annette, thank you very much. And we know that Welcome to Countries have been in the media lately, and I see Michael Mangos there, and he's going to appreciate this story. At my favourite coffee shop in High Street, it's run by a Greek fella, and I got there the other day and he's watering the concrete. And I might have asked him whether that was a cultural expression from his people. And he said, "You got your Welcome to Country, I got mine." So, but Annette, thank you so much for that. We're going to move into the first bit of first act tonight, and we've got a couple of acts to support Tom in his speech. to lead off from our net, and you know when the ancestors are deeming this to be right, when there's a common thread flowing through, and we'll see that thread at the end of the night. But can I introduce the Indigenous outreach dancers to come and liven up a cold Wednesday night here in Naarm. Give them a big hand.
Ooh, all right. How's everyone doing tonight? That came from one person in the front. I'm asking everyone, how are you all doing tonight? That's better. All right, before we start off, my name is Michael Charles. I'm a proud Yorta Yorta and Wiradjuri man. I'm here with the IOP crew today and would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of this beautiful land we're here on today. I want to say we're here for respect, for connection, for having a lot of fun with everyone, but while we're at it, we want to celebrate and learn about the oldest living continuous culture in the world. Now, before this fella comes out, when I introduce him, everyone needs to go like just as high as you can, loud, just very loud. I want to say the word crazy, but I don't want to, Anyway, so everyone, please give it up for Mr. Jimmy Savage. Oh yeah, give it up. He's going to showcase some of his Torres Strait Islander side now. Let's go, Jimmy. Clap them hands. Tamini, Marie pull on Tamini, Marie pull on Tamini, hey Masse Marie pull on Tamini, hey Tamini, Marie pull on Tamini, Marie pull on Tamini, hey Masse Marie pull on Tamini. Hey, Masema, pull on Tamini. Give me 5. Oh yeah, give it up. And to the stage right now, we have Mr. Eddie Bandlet. In 1939, a mob of Koori strong left Kamraganja protesting the wrong. The Kamra walk off, the great historical feat, the legacy of a people who can't be beat. Camped on the river, settled in the bush, wouldn't go back, no matter how hard they pushed. A manager so cruel gave their houses away, but on the Murray River, our people stayed.
Kamra Ganja, the home of our mob. Kamra Ganja, where my family's from.
Oh yeah, give it up. We're gonna bring it to modern times now. I need everyone to clap them hands. We need your vibes. The more you clap and cheer, the better we dance. Let's go, crew, let's go.
Oh Lord, guess who's coming? Timberland, aka Lil Drummond. Who gon' get it crunk like me, Timberland? Oh my nigga Scoop, aka Fat Man. We guaranteed to make the party people bounce. Fellas say, oh, girls say, ah. Looking at the cornrows up in the club. Girl, don't be bashful, girl, back it up. Do it, girl, like it's poking, man. Shake it as fast as you can. White girl, shake it like it burning from a suntan. My dog, grip it, grab it like it was a soda can. What you talking about holding back? Better get on the dance floor, drop it like it was a Cadillac. What you talking about cutting the slack? Girl, you better bend that back. Where my girls roll deep in the club. Can't wait to hit the bar and get that stuff. Come my dogs who got more than $100. Can't wait to freak one of the cool bug. Before we start to turn it out, you must learn to crump out. Before we start to turn it out.
Oh yeah, make some noise, make some noise.
Make some noise for Braden, everybody. Alright, give it up for Mr. Mike Charles. Go, Mikey. Go. Oh. Oh. Clap your hands, everybody. Clap your hands, everybody. Go, 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 go. Get them, Mike. They don't know what they were.
And I can't take no more.
If you can't do that, you better clap. That's much better. Go, Mikey. Go, Mikey.
Time to flip me over cause I'm done, huh?
Hey.
I know I said it before, but now I'm well done. Tell our son I love him, still care for him. I'll be there if you let me be there for him.
Hey.
Trying to play me like a fool, and I ain't even know when I already knew that you was being tampered with. You think you can fool me with that Gucci ankle shit? Hey.
Now we're gonna do a little freestyle for you. Let's give it up for Powers! Whoa!
Oh yeah! Now you better be clapping your hands if you can't do that. That's it, yeah. Let's go. Go Mayo! Go Mayo! Oh! That's crazy. That's it. Clap your hands to the beat now. Clap your hands. Let's go.
Thank you very much. We are Indigenous Outreach Projects.
We're Indigenous Outreach Projects, or IOP Hip Hop. If you would like to follow anything we do, please jump on our socials at IOP Hip Hop. We'd love to have a chat. We'd love to have a yarn. We'll speak to you guys soon. Until then, please get home safe.
Wow, what can you say after that? Being up here and watching your faces was as entertaining as that. This might be a good time for me to do an ad for the Faculty of Health and our chiropractic course. It's a very good one if you're interested. And thank you for welcoming us. And back in traditional days, you'd be welcomed with words and in song and in dance, and that's what's happened tonight. And back in traditional days, the people that were welcome, we'd look to the two leaders in the group that was welcome and invite them to respond with dance. So Ian and John, I'll give you a moment to talk about issues of choreography. And Ian, sorry, I think I promised I'd behave tonight. I lied. Hey, just before I call Ian up, I just want to recognise everyone for coming out tonight. A lot of very special guests in the audience tonight. I want to recognise the Vice-Chancellor Indigenous Advisory Council and members of University Council here. We've got some of our friends and colleagues from Justice and VicPol here. Education, they're here. Naikiri, it's great to have you here tonight, and they're sitting up the front, and we'll catch up with you on the way out. Vai is here, and my brothers and sisters, PVCs and DVCs, Indigenous from around the state have come too. So thank you very much, and it's great to have you here. So Ian, I won't get you to do a response in dance, or maybe I will. So, but the energy of that group is immense. I don't know if you're feeling warm, and I certainly am. So, yeah. So what we'll do now is invite Ian up to the lectern to welcome Tom. So.
You have convinced me that each year I say the same thing, which is I am never going to get up after market Indigenous Oration and speak ever again, and every year I do the same thing. It says more about me than Mark. But anyway, it is a great pleasure as Deakin's Vice-Chancellor to welcome everybody here this evening. Annette, thank you for welcome to your wonderful country here. It was beautiful to hear those words, so thank you. To our Deakin colleagues, chancellors, council members, members of the university community, and so many friends and family and supporters of Deakin University, it is a great evening. As Mark said, this is our fourth Indigenous Oration, and each year we have, I think, had some extraordinary speakers and community come together to think about what this means for our country. And I think there was many words that Annette said about our country, because I think it is that coming together. Our strategic plan, and these are words that Mark helped write, speaks about our role as a university in helping to build a future for our country that acknowledges the full history, reflects that full history, but enables us to go forward together. That will inevitably involve difficult and challenging conversations, but there is no doubt that we'll be stronger as a result. Universities are places where difficult and challenging conversations should be had, should be debated, and should take the nation forward. The theme of this year's Indigenous Oration is, after the voice loss and election landslide, how has the landscape changed and what's on the horizon? It rightly implies that there are many, many opportunities as well as challenges. Our orator tonight needs little introduction. Professor Tom Calma has had a profound impact on the rights and progress of First Nations Australians. His lifelong dedication to advocating for Indigenous rights and equity is evident in policy, advocacy, and in our education systems. When you come to do this kind of introduction, you know that if you read a list of achievements out, it will not do justice. But his contribution to our nation has been reflected in the Order of Australia in 2012, He was Social Justice Commissioner between 2004 and 2010, Race Discrimination Commissioner between 2004 and 2009, co-chair of the Senior Advisory Group for the Indigenous Voice to Government. Coming back to our sector, Chancellor of the University of Canberra for 9 years, and only the second Indigenous person to hold such a role. And he was, I'm not sure reminding him if this is a good idea, but Senior Australian of the Year in 2023. Professor Calma's social justice report in 2005 played an absolutely pivotal role in launching the Closing the Gaps campaign, calling for health equity for Indigenous Australians. Along with his contributions to Australian society as an advocate for empowerment and self-determination, Professor Calma is known for mentoring the next generation of Indigenous leaders. And you know when you talk to people who've been mentored by Tom, what a profound impact that has had on so many lives and careers. As Chancellor of the University of Canberra, he advocated for educational programs to empower Indigenous students while preserving cultural identity. Please, everybody, welcome Professor Tom Calma AO to deliver the 2025 Deakin University Indigenous Oration. Tom, thank you.
Got to go through this whole process. Sorry about this. I thought I had it all in hand. But don't you just hate it, technology, you know? It's being able to cope with it is a real challenge. Anyhow. Well, good evening, and it's great to see you all here tonight on such a crisp Naarm evening. It's an honour to be here tonight to deliver the 4th Deakin University Indigenous Oration. There are many I'd like to acknowledge, including my old friend, distinguished Professor Mark Rose AM, past colleague, Chancellor John Stanhope AM, Vice-Chancellor Ian Martin, and DVCA Jessica Vanderlee. A special acknowledgement also to all the council members and friends who are here joining us. I'd also like to extend a welcome and a thank you. I shouldn't be welcoming Annette, but to thank Annette for your most important welcome to country. And I'll address a little later welcomes to country in the oration. I acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people of the Kulin Nation, the custodians of Naarm, who have lived, loved and raised their families and cared for this country for millennia before the arrival of the British that saw the subsequent disposal of lands, cultures and languages across the nation. I acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the audience and all youth who will be our future leaders, the custodians of our stories, languages, histories and cultures. I emphasise youth because at the last census, over 50% of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander population were under 14 years of age, and we are the fastest growing population group in the nation. Media and commentators too often represent Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people from a deficit perspective. So tonight I'll focus on some of the positives, but I won't avoid mentioning some of the significant forces and challenges facing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Despite the killings, the theft of land and resources, and the prohibition of ceremonies and the use of mother tongue, despite the forced removal of our children and the destruction of sacred and other sites of significance, our people to continue to survive and identify, irrespective of our location or complexion. The continued survival of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples with distinct identities, languages and cultures and cultural practices is unquestionably our greatest triumph. Much, however, has been lost, and today we struggle, and we don't give up the fight to retain and regain our languages and cultures. Over the past couple of generations, there has been a resurgence of cultural practice across the nation to coincide with firstly the 1967 referendum, then the High Court 1992 Mabo decision that overturned the false legal idea of terra nullius, meaning the land belonging to no one, which has been used to justify the British takeover and colonisation of Australia. And then we had the national apology in 2008, that helped educate the community about the atrocities also meted on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And more recently, in 2017, the Uluru Statement from the Heart. These powerful actions have given confidence and a sense of security for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, hence the proud practice of Welcome to Country as we witness tonight. Of course, we have the contemporary woke detractors who must feel insecure and threatened by the mere existence of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people's advancement and being equal to themselves. The woke detractors see their role is to belittle and subjugate difference, and my message to the woke detractors, be they politicians, media commentators or members of the public, is wake up, educate yourself and do something positive with your life. Embrace difference and celebrate you share this continent with the oldest surviving continuous cultures in the world. I've titled my speech tonight, After the Voice Loss and Election Landslide, How has the landscape changed and what's on the horizon? It's been 21 months since the referendum, and yes, there has been change, both individual and societal, from my observations. The rhetoric leading up to and post the referendum was that communities overwhelmingly did not support the referendum, and social and mainstream media outlets and politicians sang from the same hymn sheet, namely, if you don't know, vote no. Reconciliation is dead. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples do not support the referendum. If you vote no, I'll hold another referendum to recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the Constitution, and it's racist and will divide the nation, etc. Now, I won't go on as you've heard it all before. What I'd like to do is to mention, though, that if you don't know, educate yourself. Reconciliation is not dead. 6.4 million people voted yes, and 60,000 people volunteered for the Yes campaign, the vast majority volunteering for the first time in their lives and not having personally met an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander person. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people did support the referendum, and we saw that in the vote across the nation. And the untrue statement that it is racist and will divide the nation by a number of politicians who also knew that Section 5126, known as the race power of the Constitution, enables a parliament to enact racially discriminatory legislation for any race of people. And that's unacceptable, their behaviour and their misleading information for the public. The ANU conducted a post-referendum comprehensive survey of over 4,200 Australians, and they found that fear of division was a significant driver behind the no vote. The conservative think tank, the Institute of Public Affairs, conducted a post-referendum survey of 3,500 people and found that a majority of Australians who voted no did so because they believed the voice would divide the country, whether or not they fully understood what the proposal actually was. However, the most controversially misleading rhetoric was the withdrawal of the commitment that if you vote no, I will hold another referendum to recognise Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the Constitution. Now, I hypothesise that the Australian voting population had become more enlightened by the time the last election was, and they were over the untruths and the anti-woke behaviour, such as opposing or denigrating Welcome to Country ceremonies and not standing in front of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flags by politicians when they went to the polls on the 3rd of May 2025. Their protest vote and support of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and reconciliation realised the landslide. So what has the landslide brought us? Firstly, it is speculated that many Australians voted for honesty and integrity from major parties. Combined across both chambers, there is 112 women and 114 men. Of the 150 House of Representatives seats, women hold 69, and in the Senate, women hold 44 of the 76 seats, or 58% of the Senate. We also witnessed two other historic achievements, with Susan Lee MP leading the coalition for the first time a woman leading the coalition, and Marion Scrimgeour MP, an Aboriginal woman from Darwin, becoming the first Indigenous person to formally perform the House of Reps Speaker role. Amazing achievements and results, and while not guaranteed, it is anticipated that the behaviour of parliamentarians will be more moderate and the passage of legislation will be more expediently processed with the significant representation of women in Parliament. An indication of the change is evident in the legislation that has been passed in the first sitting week of this Parliament, including Aged Care Act 2024, Scam Prevention Framework Act, oversight legislation relating to the robo-debt, Veterans Entitlements, Treatment and Support Act, Early Childhood Education and Care, 3-Day Guarantee Act, tax incentives for critical minerals and hydrogen, Deakin, I like that hydrogen one, and mandatory sentencing for hate crimes. For the second week, potential bills relating to the University Accord cutting student debt by 20% bill will be tabled, net zero carbon emissions policy, and new legislation targeting cheaper PBS drugs, expanding Medicare bulk billing incentives, and AI generation linked to child sexual abuse material. So, with many progressive women in the Parliament, now is the time to lobby for the implementation of recommendations from the plethora of Senate, House of Reps, Joint Party, Royal Commission and other seminal reports across Indigenous affairs. We have too many reports that have lay, and not been implemented by parliaments of all persuasions over too many years. At the state and territory level, we've also witnessed major advancements and a number of retrograde actions relating to voice, treaty and truth-telling. The NT and Queensland have scrapped their treaty programs and the Truth-Telling Commission in Queensland. WA, Tasmania and New South Wales advisory body discussions have not been scrapped, but progress is slow, with most progress being achieved by South Australia's voice mechanism being implemented and the Uruk Commission's Uruk for Transformational Final Report being completed. So let's hope other jurisdictions can take heart from the Commission's work to progress their states' initiatives, as the 2024 Australian Reconciliation Barometer found that 71% of Australians believe that truth-telling is important. At the national level, the Closing the Gap National Agreement is being supported by the Commonwealth and all jurisdictions, but progress is slow and outcomes are varied. Based on the Closing the Gap dashboard and the 2024 Annual Data Compilation Report, only 5 out of 19 national targets are assessed to be on track to be met by their 2031 and 2026 deadlines. Time doesn't allow me to address them all, but I will firstly profile 2 that are not on track, namely Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander adult incarceration and youth detention, and 2 that are on track and the reasons why. It might be a few more than 2. I won't present detailed stats on incarcerations or detention. Suffice to say that many jurisdictions have tough on crime initiatives that incarcerate offenders and do not address the prime causes of offending, including social, cultural and economic determinants. When not addressed or not discussed while in detention, there is a high probability of reoffending on release. But there is a solution to this challenge, and it's called justice reinvestment. As the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Social Justice Commissioner in 2009, in a report to the Australian Parliament, I introduced the notion of justice reinvestment as a potential address to Indigenous crime. I had observed justice reinvestment working very effectively in the United States with low SES and minority groups in high offending areas. Justice reinvestment is about reducing criminal offences by investing in the community before people commit crimes. In the US, through addressing health issues, addictions, homelessness, unemployment and poverty, jurisdictions were able to reduce offending, and consequently in Texas, which was known as the state that incarcerated and also put to death more than any other state, since 2007, their prison population has reduced by over 30,000 people and they've actually closed 16 prisons. Justice Reinvestment had a slow start in Australia, but the most notable success program was implemented in Burke in New South Wales. The community was able to reduce youth crime through offering support through education, sport and cultural activities and employment, and by arranging for youth and older residents to get a driver's licence so they weren't committing crimes like driving unlicensed. Another most notable outcome was the birth weight of babies, and that it had increased significantly. And the first evaluation report indicated that there were no low birth weight babies born to Burke mothers after the first 3 years of the Justice Reinvestment program being implemented. The key to success was Indigenous leadership and the support of all major government agencies, including the police and the business sector, who were able to offer employment opportunities to people who had previously never had the opportunity to participate in employment. In October 2016, Senator George Brandis, as the Attorney-General, briefed the Australian Law Reform Commission to undertake a review of all reports written about Indigenous incarceration and identify the recommendations that were most likely to succeed. He also said very clearly this wasn't about conducting more consultations. We have enough reports written about the topic. Let's just get on with it. I was fortunate to become a member of that review team, and after reviewing all the major reports, the key findings in a report, known as the Pathways to Justice report, was that justice reinvestment was the key to success. The report also identified that the majority of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people across Northern Australia were incarcerated because they had allegedly, and I use allegedly purposefully, committed an offence, but they were on remand. That is, they were held in prison even though they had not had their day in court to determine whether they were guilty or innocent. An irony is that many of the prisoners, when they went to court after months of incarceration, were found not guilty of the crime, or that the time they served in jail accounted for the time that they potentially would have been incarcerated for had they been found guilty by a magistrate or judge. It was also evident that many prisoners were not given the opportunity to apply for parole because there were no facilities that enable supervision in their home communities, so the only alternative was to keep them incarcerated. The Pathways to Justice report was tabled in December 2017, just over a year after it was commissioned. But unfortunately, Senator Brandis had been posted to the Australian High Commission as the High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, and the following two Attorney-Generals did not address the report in any meaningful way, so the recommendations lay fallow. When Labor was elected in May 2022, the incoming Attorney-General, Mark Dreyfus, commenced actioning the report recommendations that included the establishment of Indigenous-led place-based justice investment trials across Australia. There are now 28 justice reinvestment trials commencing across Australia, except for Victoria and Tasmania, although Victoria may be coming soon. And once implemented, it is anticipated that we'll see some very positive outcomes from the program. And if you have an interest in understanding about Indigenous incarceration, I'd urge you to read the Pathways to Justice report, easy download from the Australian Law Reform Commission. And if you only read the first 30 or 40 pages, we did a very good executive summary so that politicians will be able to get it pretty quickly. But that's all you have to do to get the real feel about the issues that confront Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the justice system. The justice reinvestment activities will be complemented by additional measures to be implemented in 2025 through the new Indigenous Jobs program that I'll touch on in a moment. The Tough on Crime initiatives across the nation have seen incarceration rates of Indigenous adults increased concerningly over the past 3 years, from 13,852 in 2023 to 15,871 in 24, with the 2025 figures yet to be released. As of the 30th of June this year, there were 2,509 Indigenous adults incarcerated in the Northern Territory, representing 88% of the Northern Territory prison population, and they represent just over 30% of the population of the Northern Territory. Youth detention is concerning across Australia, with the largest cohort in the Northern Territory, where media reports highlight that over 400 Indigenous children were held in police watchhouses in the NT during the first 6 months of 2025. Victoria has the lowest Indigenous incarceration detention rates in Australia and shows a sustained downward trajectory in both numbers and rates. However, overrepresentation persists, with Indigenous youth detained at 9 to 11 times the rate of non-Indigenous peers in Victoria. Now let me briefly turn to the positive complementary National Indigenous Initiative that has the potential to positively impact on Indigenous adult and youth incarceration. For many years, First Nations people have told governments that they don't want sit-down money, they want to develop their skills and contribute to their communities in return for real wages. In 2022, the Labor government made a commitment to replace the Community Development Program, remote employment service, with a program with real jobs, proper wages and decent conditions. In 2025, CDP, as it's known, replacement will become a reality, shaped by the voices of people in remote communities, job seekers, employers and service providers. 2 phases of public consultations across remote communities in 2023 and 24 shaped the 2 new job programs known as Remote Jobs and Economic Development Program and Remote Australian Employment Services. One program focused on the creation of jobs and the other delivering quality employment services for those for work or needed support to build work readiness. The Remote Jobs and Economic Development Program will create 3,000 new jobs over 3 years, and RAS aims to support over 40,000 job seekers to build their skills and get job ready. Jobs funded reflect a mix of part-time, full-time and casual roles to meet what the community needs and wants, and will have good pay and relevant conditions for employees like superannuation and leave entitlements. Complementary programs to address health, literacy and numeracy and disability challenges will also be implemented. I'm also buoyed to learn that work is underway to embed a robust monitoring, evaluation and learning framework into the RAS. And this needs to happen with a lot more Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander programs, so that, those, and we hear politicians, and particularly one Aboriginal politician continually saying that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander affairs is a failed state, and that programs are always under question, which is totally false, and they should know better. Employment initiatives will impact individuals, families and communities, and will have the potential to address many social and economic determinants that adversely impact Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Now, earlier I mentioned media reporting too often focused on Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people from a deficit perspective, and this impacts on unconscious biases of many in the community. There are many initiatives and achievements to celebrate, and I'll profile a few of them. First is the Young Indigenous Women's STEM Academy. In 2018, CSIRO received 10 years of funding from the Australian Government's National Indigenous Australians Agency to work in partnership with career trackers to deliver Young Indigenous Women's STEM Academy, or the Academy for short. The STEM Academy is funded to support over 600 Aboriginal and or Torres Strait Islander women from right across Australia to undertake studies and careers in science, technology, engineering and maths. The data shows that Australia's STEM skilled workforce is only 16% women. The data also shows that only 0.5% of the Indigenous population have a university STEM qualification, as opposed to 5.2% for the rest of the population. This is a significant issue for Indigenous women's prosperity and economic standing, considering that up to 80% of all future jobs will require STEM skills. The original model for the STEM Academy was to recruit young women in Year 8 and empower them through high school and various tertiary pathways, including university. The Academy supports the young women from years 8 to 12, and Career Trackers supports the young women through various tertiary pathways and into their own early STEM careers. To date, the Academy has achieved 94.8% retention rate. Eat your heart out, universities, my own included. Significantly exceeding the national retention rate for Indigenous females of 63%. In West Australia, the Academy achieved 97% retention rate, far exceeding the national average of 63% for Indigenous young women. And in the Northern Territory, the 92% retention rate is an exemplar compared to the 33% of the population who actually make it through. Over 650 young Indigenous women have actively engaged in the program across both high school and tertiary education, and 100 young Indigenous women have graduated with STEM degrees, including Greta, who recently graduated with a Bachelor of Engineering Honours and Bachelor of Mathematics, and majored in Mechanical Engineering and Aerospace Engineering. In addition to place-based community engagement in Australia, the Academy has international partnerships with organisations such as the US and Canadian embassies, NASA, the University of California, Davis, the Fororo STEM Academy in Aotearoa, and the American Indian Science and Engineering Society in the US, and the Asia and Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum. A delegation of 14 to 15 members from the Academy are also participating in a Churchill Fellowship later this year to focus on Indigenous-led initiatives in the US, Canada, New Zealand, and with the Sami women in Norway. So let me now segue to talk about the second initiative, the Churchill Fellowship Program, where I'm a co-patron with former Victorian Governor Linda Desai, AC, CVO. Since the fellowship program was launched in 1966, around 100 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander fellows, and that's 56 female and 34 males, you might be getting the hint that I'm talking about females up in this, have participated in 231 projects, the first being a guy called Max Daniels in 1967, 1 year after the Churchill Fellowship was launched. And every year since, we've had Indigenous participation. Max's fellowship was to observe conduct of cooperative societies amongst developing people and the methods of home construction and boat building. Major themes fellowships have since explored, and this is not all of them, but just the major ones: health and well-being, arts and self-exploration, culture and language, social science and child protection, education and training, and community development. To accommodate the diversity of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people's experiences, in recent years we've developed at the Churchill Fellowship joint, hybrid and domestic fellowships. For some applicants who live in remote parts of Australia, including external territories, travelling domestically can be challenging and just as challenging and beneficial as travelling overseas. People living in these areas may apply to undertake a Churchill Fellowship domestically, and this means travelling within Australia only. The application requirements are the same for these fellows, including the ability to demonstrate the benefit of their community upon their return, evidence of experience in their field, and providing information about who they'll be visiting and why. And I'd urge anybody here who has a particular interest, have a look at the Churchill Fellowships. Very generous program, and in fact they're just going through the process of assessment for the 2026 cohort. But by about this time, it'll be a bit earlier, later this year, early next year, we'll be looking at applications, and they are a really important way to explore different issues internationally. The third exciting example of Indigenous excellence are the participation on the Charlie Perkins Scholarship and Roberta Sykes Scholarship programs. 14 years ago, very few Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students had studied at the world's top universities, and none had graduated from Oxford or Cambridge. The Roberta Sykes Scholarship had begun to open up pathways to postgraduate studies in the US, but the numbers were small. The turning point came with the creation of the Charlie Perkins Scholarship, which focused on Oxford and Cambridge, alongside Aurora's broader strategy targeting support for scholars, a strong cohort model, a greater visibility of opportunity and the launch of an international study tour. We stopped thinking in ones and twos and started backing the idea that many more Indigenous students could thrive at top universities every year. Both scholarships are administered by the Aurora Education Foundation, with the Charlie Perkins Scholarship governed by a dedicated trust. Together with the Roberta Sykes Trust, we all created something that hadn't existed before, a pathway for Indigenous Australians into postgraduate studies at some of the most competitive institutions in the world, with the support to succeed once they got there. There is a rigorous selection process, and I've been part of that for the past 14 years as an inaugural trustee of the Charlie Perkins Scholarship Trust, and have sat on the interview panels for almost every Charlie Perkins applicant. I've seen firsthand how sharp and compelling these cases for study have become. They know exactly why they're going, what they want to achieve, and how their work will contribute to their communities and their country on return. Around 90% of these scholars went to public schools. 50% didn't get a high school ATAR high enough for direct Australian university entry and came into university through alternative pathways, and yet they still graduated with undergraduate results strong enough to gain postgraduate admission to Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, Stanford, NYU, LSE and UCL, where there are no applicable alternative admission processes. They all gained entry on merit. Nearly 400 students have also taken part in Aurora's international study tour, visiting those same universities to see what's possible and whether it's right for them. Of those from the study tour who apply, 93% are accepted. That's a success rate many private schools would be very proud of. Since the scholarships began, nearly 100 First Nations students have studied at the top institutions, and every one of them has completed their degree, and that's either a master's or PhD or DPhil program. Some are now leading teams on early childhood brain cancer research. Others are heading compliance in renewable energy, running AI health companies, working with parliamentarians, leading Indigenous organisations focused on economic development, or are academics. And that's one of the good things. A few of them are getting into academia. And 65% of these scholars are women. We're very proud of that. At the same time, when the makeup of our parliament and the institutions is shifting, we have a growing group of Indigenous women leaders ready to shape what comes next. These scholarships offer a rare mix of academic and international opportunity, and they are helping put Indigenous women at the centre of our futures. Now, this shows the power of higher education and what is possible when belief, structure and opportunity come together. My final example of Indigenous excellence is the program that I'm immensely involved with, the Tackling Indigenous Smoking Initiative. Why excellence, you ask, when we're discussing smoking and vaping? In a nutshell, TIS, the Tackling Indigenous Smoking Program, is considered an exemplar in both Indigenous and non-Indigenous health based on the lives saved. Smoking-related disease and conditions kills 24,000 Australians each and every year, and this is preventable. In 2010, when the TIS program commenced, I was appointed as the National Coordinator for that program for 2 years. That was 15 years ago. And Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander smoking rates exceeded 50% of the population. In remote Australia, these figures were much higher, and the challenge was to reach the non-Indigenous population smoking rate of around about 20%. So we had a big gap to catch up with. But if we also remember that when the government was handing out rations in lieu of wages, tobacco was one of the commodities in the rations, along with sugar and flour and all those things that help us, develop diabetes. The TIS program is a population health approach. That means education of the community about the benefits of not smoking to enable them to make informed decisions about their own health. And whilst we do talk about the detriments of smoking, your life shortened, etc., you're going to catch everything under the sun. We don't emphasise that. We give it we look at it from a positive perspective to help people make informed decisions. The program was initiated by the Labor government and subsequently supported by the Coalition government to its present time, again under Labor. And I must acknowledge Ken Wyatt when he was the Minister for Indigenous Health. He helped get it through from the Coalition side. It is one of the few programs that has enjoyed funding and policy support from both major parties in the past 15 years. In 2018-19, the Indigenous smoking rate had reduced to 37%, from 50 down to 37% of the population, with significant higher rates in remote and very remote communities. A new target was set to reduce smoking to 27% by 2030. We thought it was achievable, but it might be a bit of a stretch. However, the ABS released smoking rates estimates in November 2024 that indicated that smoking for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people had reached 29%. Effectively, this indicated that we were about 5 years ahead of our target. It's also important to recognise that whilst the general population, vaping is around about 20% or a little over, it's about 8% amongst Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. So, and Victoria's been one of the big leaders in vaping, because of that vaping being the vehicle for people who had never smoked, who take up vaping, 30% of them will transition to smoking cigarettes. So that's why we've got a big push to eliminate vaping where possible. In analysing the 2018-19 data, the Australian National University determined that approximately 50,000 Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people had ceased or not taken up smoking since the program commenced. And in considering mortality data for smoking-related diseases, ANU estimated that approximately 23,000 lives had been saved. Therefore, it gained recognition as being a very successful health intervention. Given that the smoking rate had reduced to 29%, we anticipate that the data currently being analysed will indicate a significantly higher number of lives saved. And that's why we proudly carry the mantle of being the most successful program. We've been able to achieve such outstanding results because of empowerment and capacity development of the local Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community to manage the program. Over 50 different responses, and they're locally based and generated programs, come under the auspice of the One Tackling Indigenous Smoking program. These are community designed and led messaging and strategy initiatives which clearly demonstrate that the community knows best on how to work effectively, efficiently and positively with and for their people. There are many other issues I could have discussed this evening, but I was warned I only had 25 minutes. I've gone over just a tad. But I wanted to showcase Indigenous excellence, profile the power and influence of Indigenous women and girls, and to help purge our unconscious biases of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. I know from lived experience and observation that when opportunities are presented in a supportive environment, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people will embrace them and thrive. And given our young population, the future presents enormous opportunities. And we invite you all to walk with us. Thank you.
Wow, Tom, that was amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for what was, I'm sure we'll all agree, a thought-provoking and moving oration. You certainly delivered on the Aboriginal inspiration tonight, picking up on Mark's piece earlier. You've brought us truth, you've given us hope, you've challenged us, and you painted such a clear picture of the current landscape. Thank you for urging us to look to the future, despite the massive disappointments of the referendum and the divisive behaviours that led into the federal election. We heard you loud and clear, your important message, and one I think we can all take home and continue to share in our day-to-day lives. Wake up and educate yourself. It was powerful to hear you speak of the role that education can play as we walk this new path together. You shared outstanding examples of outreach and aspiration building, research and international engagement, and scholarships that enabled true expressions of excellence and success. Programs that show the powerful outcomes that result when belief, structure, and excellence come together. Thank you for showing us a way forward for reconciliation in Australia and for exciting us with the prospect of treaty here in Victoria. The truth-telling process has been so critical and will continue to be critical. And I look forward to working in partnership with our communities as we reflect on the recommendations and take meaningful action. This is a new era, and it is wonderful for us to be part of the creation of a lasting change that has been long coming and hard fought. On behalf of everyone here and on behalf of Deakin University, thank you again for your oration. It is my pleasure to present you with this shield that I will show. I'm not sure everyone can see it, but it features Bunjil, the creator, as our heartfelt thanks for your most moving words, and may Bunjil protect you on your journey home. Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Wow, what a night it's been. Tom, thank you for that. Our paths, our history together, our paths have crossed so many times since we both were working on a campus in Vietnam, and we yarning to each other and worked out that we're both black fellows. But since then, I stood with you at the 100 people at Adelaide, which became the Congress. I walked with you along the Birrarong as you launched a recognised program, and when people look back at this era, they'll say this has been the great cause of the nation, and you've been a crusader in that cause, along with many other people in this room. And the core message that Jess picked up beautifully, it's all our business. We're all here for that cause. So, Tom, thank you very much for that. Yeah. Next year, the legacy of Indigenous at Deakin turns a point. And I'd like to recognise a couple of people in the room tonight who have been part of the Indigenous legacy at Deakin. Liz is here, and Brenda over there, thank you for that. And Kate up the back, I hope you got a good seat, Kate, have been part of Deakin being the KTEP program, Ike and Naikiri. And with Corinda and Tash here in the front row, your work leading that space is really important as your space turns 40 years next year. So, and we'll look forward to celebrating that. I wanted, before we end up the last part of tonight, which is just another extension of Aboriginal inspiration, I want to thank the people who have got this night together. I want to thank Megan and the entire events team. I want to thank Kylie and Ronnie for the work they've done. The entire DVCA portfolio, who are immense people to work for under Jess's leadership, and they've always been a great support. And I want to thank you for being part of this Indigenous Inspiration Night tonight. Nestled, we've spoken about the nations that blanket the continent, but parallel to the nation are a group of islands that start off Cairns and flows right up to the they are the Torres Strait, but flow right up to Papua New Guinea, and they're the Torres Strait. And we haven't had in our time people from the Torres Strait to enter and perform for us. Deb, I attended your performance with your colleagues at the where was that again? I had a stroke. Okay, no. And she chaired a group of 50 people singing Torres Strait Islander songs. So we're going to end out the night with a great couple of songs that come for us via the Torres Strait through to Ballarat and here on the on the steps of the Birrarong tonight. So will you welcome Deb and the family to the stage, please?
Debiki Diblo Clark, Oeswa, Kalaglug, Ablainaya Boroged, Kimle, Wurundjeri. For this country, we acknowledge space and time, and Mapoden peace, as we share some of our language on Wurundjeri country, part of the Kulin Nation, my adopted home. It's in my hair, it's in my eyes, across my brow, it's in my nose, down to my toes, and I'm proud. There's nothing, no, there's nothing that I would wanna do. I'd never change a single thing. I'm walking this way. A blela pecking Ali. This is who I am.
I look up high into the sky, and I know ancestors call to me to come home. I see the stars, and I know they guide me to taste the fruit from the one-eyed tree. I'm walking this way. A blela pecking Ali. This is who I am. Under the palm trees. Come walk on the sand. Mangoes bring life. Come take my
I'm walking this way. A blela pecking Ali.
A blela pecking Ali.
This is who I am.
This is who I am.
'Cause you know I'm walking this way.
I'm walking this way.
I'm
walking this way.
A blela pecking Ali.
I'm walking this way.
This is who I am.
I'm walking this way.
This is who I am. This is Mercy, everyone. She's 13. And Dave. We were asked to sing a song, so we made it our song. Karaged means my country. Kara Uteb means my island. So this song is for the Deakin University. Remembering that we are on an island with many islands around. So this song From Christine I knew, from the Warumpi band, never stolen, never taken, but shared across all these generations. Except my backing singer, who when I played it to her the other day didn't know the song, which I kind of thought, probably need to work on that with her. For many years I've been in the city, and every night I dream of the sea. They say home is where you find it. Will this place ever satisfy me? Gotta get, gotta tap, for I come from salt water people. We always lived by the sea. Oh, now I'm down here living in the city with my love and a family. My island home, my island home, my island home is waiting for me. My island home, my island home, my island home is waiting for me. Gotta get, gotta tap. Am I singing this one? In the evening, the dry wind blows from the hills and across the plains, and I close my eyes and I'm standing in a boat on the sea again, and I'm holding that long fishing line, and I feel I'm close now to where it must be. My island home is waiting for me. Gotta get, gotta tap. My island home, my island home, my island home is waiting for me. My island home, my island home, my island home is waiting for me.
For I come from the salt water people. We always lived by the sea. Now I'm down here living in the city with my love and a family. My island home, my island home, my island home is waiting for me. My island home, my island home.
See you back here in 12 months. Safe home, everyone. May the ancestor spirits that got us here safe get us home safe too. Thank you very much.